Have you ever wished you can track your time more efficiently? Well, here's how I tackled it. In this video, I'm going to show you one of my workflows for tracking time spent on different tasks on projects and some of my goals. I recently started using the time block feature in NotePlan, and I wanted to take it a step further and identify how much time I was spending on different tasks each day, and then get a summary for the week. This is done by tagging a time block with a specific word. In the example I have here, we've got a daily note template, and up at the top, I've got some sample tags that we'll be using for these examples. Now this could be anything that makes sense to you, and it doesn't have to have a hashtag. I just had the hashtag for the native NotePlan search feature that's available. Now, as we all know, one of the ways to add a time block is by dragging an item to the timeline. I created an Apple script that asks the user for the start time and the duration, and then it inserts the time block at the cursor location. I'm launching this with a Keyboard Maestro trigger, as you can see here. I'm using Keyboard Maestro for this, but it's a simple Apple script that you can easily trigger through a shortcut. If you're interested in this, it'll be available on the website and you can download it and edit it as you see fit. The time block identifier can be anywhere in the task, but for some reason I prefer to add it at the end of the task. Just my personal preference. Next, we add our tag for lunch. I'm going to be spending some time with Bob this afternoon. So we'll go ahead and add that information in there, the time block, and move on to the next step. The one thing I wanted to outline here is that you can actually track 2 items for the same period of time. In this example, we work on Project X, and we also want to count this time as focus work. Now when the shortcut runs, it's going to add time to both buckets, if you will. Now that we're all done with Monday, I went ahead and did the same thing for Tuesday. So here's Tuesday's note, and it already has all of the time blocks entered as well as the tags. Now, one thing that I want you to notice is that I've got a heading called Time Summary in the daily note. At the top of my template, I also have links to different shortcuts and plugin functions. When we click on the time summary linked up at the top, it'll launch the shortcut. As you can see, when the shortcut is launched, it goes through and it creates an entry into the weekly note summarizing that amount of time that was spent in the different categories. It also opens up the daily note and adds a summary under that heading that we looked at previously, the time summary heading. I'm going to speed up and do the rest of the week. One of the things I can't figure out is how to select the day's note from within shortcuts. When the shortcut runs, we have to select the daily note. It always asks if I want to use the day, the month, or the year note. Now, here's what I'm passing to NotePlan in the shortcut. If anyone knows how to fix this, please let me know. Since the shortcut runs very quickly, clicking on the date is just an extra step and it doesn't take that long. So we just double click on the date and move on. Now that we've got the entire week organized and summarized, all of our categories are identified, everything's accounted for, we can go into the weekly note and we see a breakdown for every activity for the week. I use the weekly note, however, you can always use this data somewhere else. You can create another note and put it somewhere else, and all you have to do is update the shortcut to where you want that note to be stored. Now, what's better than that? You've got it all in one place. Well, if you notice at the top of this template, I've got a link to another shortcut that's going to calculate the week's total. This is almost the same exact shortcut. However, it iterates through all the information for the entire week and gives you the totals for the week instead of the days. I'm surprised at how fast and efficient this really is. Really smooth. The next step would be to create a monthly report, which is still on the books. Now let's take a brief look at the shortcut. The shortcut gets the date from the active note and it uses that as the default date on the calendar. When the user selects a date, it calculates a 24-hour period for that day. Here's a list of what the shortcut is looping through and identifying what amount of time is spent in each of these activities. Again, you can change this to whatever you want, and it doesn't have to have a hashtag, as I mentioned before. You can use the word alligator, and every time that something's associated with an alligator in your time blocks, it's going to associate that and summarize it for you. Now, here the calendar that's being used should be the same one that you're using for your NotePlan time blocks. The weekly shortcut is pretty much identical. It just does a couple of different calculations to identify the week that you're working with, and it captures all of the entries within the week instead of the day. Again, you want to make sure that you've got the same list in here as well. And finally, we come to the keyboard maestro macro that runs when I launch it in the note. It's an Apple script that prompts the user for the start time, the duration of the time block, and then inserts it into the note. As I mentioned earlier, you can launch this via an Apple shortcut and assign a shortcut key to it, making it quick and simple to add your time blocks to your notes. That's pretty much it for this video. I really appreciate your time, and if you find this information useful, you can download this along with the template from my website.